Hello friends, welcome back. My name is Christian, and the other week I finally crossed off one of the goals on my bucket list. My goal was to read an entire book in one day. Why? I got the idea from a podcast. This guy was talking about how he was so captivated by this book that he finished it in a single day. And I just thought that was so cool that someone could reach the end of their to-do list, that their life could be so organized that they could just spend a random day for reading. I don't know about you, but I feel like I'm always busy. And even if I'm not, I feel like I could or I should be doing something between work, chores, errands, relationships, and all the other responsibilities that come with adulting. I just couldn't imagine a day when I could just read a whole book for fun. And that's exactly why I was drawn to this goal in the first place. Not because I wanted to read a book in a day. I don't care how long it takes for me to finish a book. Rather, it's because I wanted the kind of life where I could read a book in a day if I wanted to. In other words, I want what that free day of reading symbolizes to me, and that, my friends, is freedom. Freedom from life's responsibilities, the freedom to do what I want, when I want, the freedom I remember having as a kid. The problem, however, is that I'm not a kid anymore. Try as I might, I am not Peter Pan, and I must grow up eventually. So what's the fix here? How do we cultivate that sense of freedom we had as kids, even though we are now adults fully equipped with responsibility? At this point, I invite you to pause the video and think about your own answers to this question. Please share your answers below in the comment section. That way we can learn from each other. And while you're down there, if you wouldn't mind, I would deeply appreciate it if you liked this video and subscribed to my channel. Thank you. You can unpause and we can move on. So how do I cultivate that sense of freedom I had as a kid, even though I'm now an adult? The first thing I do is update my definition of freedom. If you noticed earlier, I said freedom from life's responsibilities. I just need to let go of that. The reality is adulthood equals responsibility. We have things to do, we have things to take care of, so I can no longer include freedom from responsibility in my definition. So what I'm left with is this definition of freedom, the ability to do what I want when I want. And how do we cultivate this definition of freedom? I think there are two ways to think about it. You can expand your freedom in the short term, and you can expand your freedom in the long term. First, I'll handle the short term, and I'll do that using a question. In the last 10 days, how many hours did you spend on activities that made you feel like a kid again? You know, those activities that you truly enjoy, that make you lose track of time, that give you a sense of freedom. For me, some of these activities are rock climbing, catching up with a friend over coffee, and writing songs. What are your activities, and how did you answer the question? If your answer was 0 hours or close to 0 hours, then you can ask the follow-up question. In the next 10 days, how many hours will I set aside for the activities that make me feel like a kid again? In the same way that we schedule our meetings, appointments, errands, and all that, we need to schedule dedicated time for the sole purpose of enjoying our life. We cannot delay our happiness until the end of our to-do list. This is actually how I completed the book in a day reading goal. On the day that I did it, I definitely had chores to do, I definitely had errands to run, but I was definitely jet lagged because I had just gotten back from the Philippines, so I decided to take it easy, busted out my favorite book, and I crossed that goal off my bucket list. The idea here is to inject a sense of freedom into our everyday lives. We need to engage in fulfilling activities often. We need to let go of the lie that we don't deserve that kind of freedom until after we've reached our dream life. We need to bring a bit of our dream life into our day-to-day living. Now, what about freedom in the long term? How do we grow our ability to do what we want when we want? The answer is a paradox. If we want more freedom in the long term, for me that means more time and money, because both are needed to do what I want when I want, then we need to subject ourselves to less freedom now. In other words, discipline equals freedom. If you're interested in taking a deep dive, Discipline Equals Freedom is the title of a book by former US Navy SEAL Jocko Willink. The idea is right there in the title. Basically, the more disciplined we become now, the more freedom we will have in the future. For example, if you have the discipline to save and invest your money rather than spend it, then you're one step closer to financial freedom. In the same way, if you have the discipline to use your time developing the skills needed to launch and grow a business rather than watching Netflix, then you're one step closer to leaving your 9-to-5 and having more time freedom. Because again, we'll be using that extra time and that extra money to do what we want when we want. We will have time freedom and financial freedom. But Christian, I hear you say, how do I balance my short-term freedom with my long-term freedom? It depends on your goals and your deadlines. For me, I've chosen to follow the example of the tortoise and not the hare because I've tried going fast before. I just get burnt out. I just get so discouraged. So as long as I'm getting 1% better every day, I'm okay going slow because I know I'll reach my goals eventually. Regardless of your pace, there is a clever way to work on your short-term freedom and your long-term freedom at the same time. How? Take one of those activities that you love doing anyway. Again, this is something that gives you a sense of freedom in the short term, and you find a way to turn it into a business. And now with the internet and social media, you can take pretty much any interest or hobby, post videos about it, make blogs about it, making sure to get it 1% better each time that you do, and eventually it'll attract a following. This audience will support you in your business. Obviously, that's a bit oversimplified, but the basic idea is sound. All we have to do is hop on social media to find evidence that this works. And yes, we do run the risk of turning our hobbies into jobs. Maybe we won't like them anymore because it'll feel like work, but you don't get to find that out unless you try. And that's why I'm here making this video, because I'm trying, because I read a book in a day and I wanted to share my experience of that, because I believe you deserve all the freedom you desire, and maybe something I've said in the last few minutes will encourage you to finally go get it. Thanks for watching. Until next week.